When I broke into the business back in about 2014, there really wasn't many indie authors in my circle. I honestly was just terrified to even reach out to anybody else for fear of being felt like I was just some newbie, some beginner just trying to drag people down. But you fast forward a couple years later in 2016 is when I started my YouTube channel, which has since grown to over 66,000 subscribers to date. And there was one person who reached out to me and really gave me the opportunity when nobody else would. And that is Catrina Taylor, otherwise known as The Lady Writes, both over on Twitch as well as Twitter. She streams over on twitch.tv/The Lady Writes, where she does writing sprints. She works with other authors. She networks, and she has a massive network of indie authors. So I'm just really geeked up to just chat with Catrina, talk about this whole brand that she's built and this community that she's grown, and also the virtual summit that she's put together. Let's get to the interview. You and I go back. Like, how far back do we go? Because I am recalling writing a guest blog post for you. How did you find me, or did I stumble over you? How did that work?
Pretty sure it was we were circling in the same groups on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and you started posting some of your videos. So this would be really early in your channel. And they were the comedy videos, but you were posting really important stuff. You were
Yeah.
posting the kind of stuff that people just, and you were making a point of things. So I was looking at that, I was like, okay, I have got to put this in one of my blog posts for this site. And I messaged you because I didn't want to do that without your permission, and that's how we kind of connected.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I was excited. Believe it or not, I think it was about 2017. So you and I have probably known each other for about 5 years. What?
hmm
So that was about 2017-ish. And I remember for the first time, I was embarrassed. And it wasn't because anything you did. I just remember like my comedy videos weren't anything I saw being taken seriously. And then when someone actually took it seriously, but also knew the humor behind it, I was just like, I didn't expect that. So the reason why I bring up this story is I really want to kind of speak to your heart and how you are just like the master networker. It seems like you are like 6 degrees of separation, kind of like Kevin Bacon of writing. It seems like you know just about everybody. Is there truth to that? Do you ever sleep, by the way?
it's funny you wouldn't believe how many times I've been asked that question, or perhaps you would.
Gotcha.
But yes, I do get some sleep. And it's funny because I don't really see myself as a networker. One of my
Gotcha.
mantras is that I lead everything with love. And so every decision I make has that influence. And that seems to connect people or draw people in pretty easily. Um, when I go back over articles or something I've written, I make sure that I am emphasizing the positive and highlighting what's important. I try to make sure that if I'm providing feedback to somebody, I am providing honest feedback because really, especially in
Mhm.
this industry, we can't really afford for somebody to sugarcoat stuff, and we can't really afford for people to shortchange us on that feedback because we don't make the improvements. We don't grow if we don't have that. So,
Hmm.
and then I do my best to remind people that they are there, that they are important, and that they are positive, and that I like having them around. Those are and I guess that means people like coming around.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. You have an infectious energy about you. And when I could wake up at 6 a.m. to catch your Twitch streams, I would show up because it was a lot of fun. You always made everybody feel at home and at ease and like almost as part of a community. And I think that's really what I enjoy. So if anybody that is listening to this podcast, please go check out The Lady Writes over on Twitch. So worth it. Now, tell me a little bit about Twitch. Like, what drove you to going over there? And you can't blame me all the way on this one.
Mm-mm.
What took you over to Twitch, and what has kept you there for so long? Because you've been at it for a few years now.
Yeah, I'm going on my second year now. And I'm
Wow.
involved with Writers Conduit, which is a Twitch-centered writers event. I'm part of the planning committee on that, and I can't wait for it. It's in June. Um, I'm going to get to to do interviews with people throughout Conduit, different authors from the Twitch community. But what got me over there, I went over to support you because you
Okay.
were doing your podcast over there, and I went over there to support you and started talking to other writers in your stream that were on Twitch, and I went, oh, there's a whole community. And I started making it a point to stumble over a couple of the individuals, and the interaction is just so infectious. And that's what caught me was that everybody was welcoming and the community was supportive and encouraging. And they don't, while everybody wants to sell their books and everybody wants to get all these readers, they know the vast majority of the people they're talking to are fellow writers. And that's how they approach their streams is these are my people. These are the people I talk to, fellow creatives, fellow individuals who want to develop themselves or at least their writing. And there's no question you could be a fan fiction writer over there and you're still going to get the same encouragement as being a 12-year publishing veteran or a 40-year publishing veteran. They are just welcoming and supportive, and it would be very hard for me to leave that community right about now.
Is there any Twitch creator right now that's an author that really stands out? Actually, I don't think it's fair to get one. Name three good Twitch creators to watch right now that are writers.
Um, Try to narrow it down.
She wasn't ready for this
No, I
question.
really wasn't, because narrowing it down, I guess I would lean on my right team. That's probably who I would
Okay.
lean on. Um, so that would be Usurper Kings. She actually does editing
Okay.
critiques in the evenings.
Oh,
I hate
nice.
not being able to catch her streams, drives me nuts. I catch them about a handful of times, but she is so good and she's got a really organized system. Um, she actually did a collaboration this month with Hello Future Me for her in her magazine. So if you guys
Okay.
are on YouTube, you'll probably know Hello Future Me. Um, at least when it comes to craft, he's one of the best world builders. So you go from there. So
Hmm.
that's Safa, and then Kindar. You want productivity? That is one of the most productive writers I know, and he goes by the Tiger Writes, which is always fun in the chat.
Okay.
My mods go. He comes into the chats. My mods try to shout him out, and they usually shout me out first.
Because it's so similar. The lady writes and then the tiger
Yep.
writes.
And he is fun, funny, and knows his stuff when it comes to craft and development. He does production all day long, and it is just
Yeah.
his streams are addictive to me because I get in and I just start working, and it's great. Writing, marketing, whatever it is I have to do, I can get in his streams because there's someone else where it's co-working stuff, and you don't even know it, and it's great. Number three. I guess number three would probably be Coffee Quills. Another high energy, high response, very friendly, high production. She will sit there and do 2 or 3 million words in the first half of the year. That's before she even hits Nano. That's a whole nother story. She'll do 2 or 3 books during Nano. She is absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful, totally positive. She's actually the founding planner behind Writers Conduit, and she's the one who pulled the team together. And she's just a positive ball of hedgehog energy.
Gotcha. Three really good, solid choices, and it's not to say that anybody was lesser. Katrina was put on the spot; she wasn't anticipating that
And
question.
I could
But
list many more, but
oh yeah, you've introduced me to so many people before. Like I'm just always blown away how much more deep you are into the Twitch author creator community. It's absolutely mind blowing. Now something that you kind of introduced me to a whole concept was last year was this 31 short stories in 31 days. Were you the creator of something like this or did you discover this and say, "Let's do it"?
no, I actually woke up one morning realizing that it had been a long time since I created short stories,
Mhm.
and I didn't feel like I had had the right approach before. So I put it in my head that I was going to set the goal of writing one short story a day for a month. And on my own, I did the first one. And that was 2 or 3 years ago now. Uh,
Okay.
then, right around the time I moved over to Twitch, I picked January is what I did. And I said, okay, I'm going
Hmm.
to do it again. I'm going to do it again in January. And I started talking to people. And Coffee Quills is actually the first one. I was like, oh, I could do that. I don't have anything going on in January. Now, if you know the woman, she's got sometimes 4 different events she's participating in a month. So the idea that found a month she had nothing going on was pretty impressive. And she and I started 31 days on Twitch together, and we would write
Hmm.
together. And then the next thing I know, it just kind of snowballed. And now every January and every August, we have 31 short stories in 31 days, which is just literally sit down and write 31 stories, 1 story a day. A lot of them are going to be crap, except that.
Yeah. But at least you have 31 pieces of content that you can go back and refine.
Exactly.
That's the part I really liked. Not many people realize this probably just yet. And as this podcast fires out, there's probably a lot more people realizing that this was the year I was pivoting over to fiction from nonfiction. I was primarily the nonfiction author, but I said for the longest time I was going to do fiction. And you were kind of the catalyst because you're like, when are you going to do it?
Hmm.
And I was like, I kept saying 2022. 2022 finally came up and I was just like, well, it's time to do this. And so naturally I ended up attacking the 31 short stories in 31 days. And I will say that I didn't get 31 stories, but I did end up getting 14 short episodes that I'm able to use for Kindle Vella,
Perfect.
which is absolutely stellar. Super, super happy with it. I would say it was a pretty good start on things. So this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, was to share how inspirational and motivational you are to someone like me and to other people. So hopefully more people will get a part of this whole movement in January and August. How does someone participate? Is it like NaNoWriMo that you go and fill out something on a website, or is this kind of like an on your honor system?
A little bit of both. I have
Okay.
inexhaustible.media is my website where I have 31 short stories working through. Kind of goes through a little bit. We give away a guidebook, which is just basically a full little book full of industry terms so that when you're done, you have something to think about. Gives you some ideas and tips for what to do with your books once you're done writing them. But more importantly, it provides prompts and it tells everybody, no, really, if you don't finish it, it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, because you come up with more. If you set a goal as high as you possibly can and you actually work for that goal and you get here, you still walk away with how much more than you would have had on day one. So
Right.
that's
It's like winning the lottery, but you only get partial payout. Well, it's still a payout.
exactly. And when we're in this industry, 1,000 word short story is bonus material. And how often do you need to find a bonus piece to throw at the end of a book or as a reader magnet or to give away to your Patreon or your subscribers? So, yeah, just 1,000 words is huge for what we do.
Mhm.
Even if you're a well, you better be a professional if you're in the publishing market, but even if you're traditionally published, having that extra material is fantastic for cultivating your reader base because even the traditional published authors and those who are hybrid need their newsletter, whether they think so or not. They need to be able to connect with their readers, and these are great tools. I love 31 days. Thanks to 31 days, I am going to probably reach a release schedule that will have me up near 50 books this year.
Wow. Oh my Lord. That is a ton of content. So, what does that look like? Obviously, you go through your first draft during that
Hmm.
month. After that month, how does that work? Take me from first draft to publication.
Um, 31 stories tend to, for me, create overlapping stories in the same universe. So now I've got a series.
Okay.
They tend to be read alone, standalone series short stories. They can be anywhere from 1,000 words. I think my highest is 10,000 words. And that was
In a
no,
day?
nah. I've only done
Oh,
10,000 words in
I'm
a day
thinking.
one time. Although if my
Gotcha.
followers have their way, I'll be doing it a second time, but that's a whole nother thing. Um, so you start with your story. You've got a couple, if they're about 1,000 words apiece, I tend to collect a few of them. And I pick the ones that kind of fit together best. And then I go through and I edit them myself first, send it to an editor, make sure that it's pretty. And then at
Mhm.
that point, it's a matter of formatting and picking the right cover and making sure that they all fit together properly the way I want them to. And
Mhm.
then I initially just started putting them aside and then would, because last year I really didn't publish much. So I'm kind of playing catch up this year.
Mhm.
Um,
I'd say 50 publications.
it may end up being more. We'll see. I'm
Yeah.
hoping. But I had 30 out, 35 out at the beginning of last year, and I wanted to actually hit number 100. I'll probably get close this year. I'll get pretty close this year. And most of them will be short stories, and some of them will be under my name, some of them will be under a pen name I don't share very often. Just like any other book, it just goes much quicker because an editor they don't need a full 2 weeks to go over your 90,000 word manuscript. And
Yeah. It's
they
much
don't,
shorter and obviously more cost effective for you too as
mhm.
well.
And I can get 5 of them done that way if I needed to. And so
Smart.
then I get, 3 to 5, especially if they're shorter, put them together. They turn into, like I said, great content, great stories, great collections.
Yeah.
Initially, I was putting them aside, done, ready to go, put aside. And then when it was time, I just started pushing them out.
So how frequent are you putting these books out? Are you doing like one a day, or are you separating them out by like a week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months?
For my name, it's once every 2 weeks for my name and once every 2 weeks for the pen name with 1 week in between.
Wow, that
So
is
far,
breakneck.
yes, it is. So far with 31 days, because I have so many stories,
Yeah.
I can do the longer stories that are 3 to 5,000 words. I release them by themselves.
Okay.
And the shorter stories, I pull them together in collections. And then every few months, I'll bundle them. So then we'll have a Fight on the Fringe bundle. And that's pretty much the short story series is Fight on the Fringe. So then we get a Fight on the Fringe bundle, which has everything I've done up until that point, and that goes out. So I'd say I have about 1 month each quarter currently scheduled to almost exclusively bundles, mine or my pen names. And then, so there'll be like, yeah, trying to remember how my schedule is set up. And then the stories as typically there's a week in between somewhere each month. But yeah, it's a quick speed, but I couldn't do it if they weren't already prepped and edited and polished and ready to go.
Yeah.
I also had the blessing of finding an old hard drive that had completed and edited stories on it that I
Oh
hadn't previously
man.
published, and that was a treasure trove.
Yeah, I wish I could be able to go back and find one of my computers. I'd lost numerous manuscripts from back in 2014 to 2015. It died,
Mm,
and I have a bunch of those there, and I know the feeling. I'm going to start to wrap up today's podcast, and I really want to ask a deep question for you.
mhm.
And that question would be, if you had a conversation with yourself from 10 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
You got this. It's you got this
Just that simple.
because
You got this.
mhm,
Can you
because
expand on it?
yeah, I was um, in 2012 was when my books hit number one,
Okay.
and I made the first book free. But at the same time, I'm raising a special needs son and a daughter who is also very young. Both of them were under 10. I was relatively newly divorced. I was mentally and emotionally pulled in every possible direction.
Yeah.
Just to know that not only did that continue in its own form, and my kids turned out pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Those are the two things, and I have been able to do exactly what I set out to do, which was prove to them that you can succeed doing something you love.
Big special thanks to Catrina. I appreciate her taking a little bit of time out of her day to drop some 411 for us. And what did you folks think? Was this some information that you found useful? Do you feel inspired or motivated to reach out to other indie authors and try to become part of something bigger? Or do you just hide out behind your keyboard and just hope for the best? I hope that you got inspired for today's episode. This has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I will chat with you next week.